Hey, Clayton, how did the priest get into the Holy of Holies in the tabernacle and the temple? Did they go in at the edge of the veil? Did they go under the veil? I just can't picture how they passed through the veil. Okay, this is a very kind of particular question. The person who wrote it actually in their email said, "Hey, I know this is kind of a little tiny question, but it's bugging me, right?" So here's what they're trying to figure out. In the tabernacle, okay, the worship space of Israel, where God's presence was, in the inner section of that tabernacle, there were two compartments, okay? There was what's called the holy place. The holy place is where the priests would go on a regular basis, okay? It had a lampstand and a table with bread on it and an altar with incense, and it was sort of saying, I'm going to enter into kind of the living room of God, right? Like it's the place where the priest would come regularly to offer sacrifices and to pray for people and so on, and it was sort of the entry place into God's home, if you think of the tabernacle as kind of God's house in the neighborhood. But there was another section just past that was called the Holy of Holies, or the Most Holy Place, and that was sort of like going into God's throne room. In our world, it would be like going into someone's bedroom. It's not a place that you go. Even if you've been welcomed into their home, you don't necessarily get to go to that place. And so this would be a place that only one of the priests, the high priest, would get to go once a year to offer one big sacrifice, and that was the only time they would go in there. And so it had a curtain in front of it, a very big curtain. If you read in the book of Exodus, it describes how this was, decorated and woven and all this stuff, but it's this big curtain that's hanging in front of this most holy place. And the person is asking the question, okay, well, how was it done? How did they get through that curtain? The one time a year when they had to go in, how did they get past it? And there's no description of it having like a curtain like that parts like this, you know what I mean? That kind of spreads out in the middle. And so the question is, well, what did they do? Did it have a part? Well, no, it doesn't seem like it. Well, does that mean they kind of went around the edge, like to the side? Did they crawl under it? Did they lift it up to go under? Did someone help them lift it up? Like what happened here? And I tried to find a verse that would tell me that. I couldn't find it. I tried to find a commentary that would tell me that. I couldn't find it. I don't know that people are overthinking this, but I did find one later Jewish source where the rabbis were discussing this, and they did say, they kind of went through the side, right? Like that they would pass through they actually said like the north side and kind of go through the edge, and they had to walk between two curtains, and they had all of this description. I don't know where they got that, but it's a question that we don't necessarily know the answer to. Here's the interesting thing, though, the important thing, I should say, about the curtain. The curtain was meant to be hard to pass through. That's the meaning of it. The idea is that you cannot simply walk into the presence of a holy God and have it just be okay. The curtain was not there to make it easy to go through. It was not sort of like, a curtain of a stage that's going to open all the time, right? This is a curtain that's meant to keep people out. And so the idea that we don't know, like, okay, well, here's just the easy way. That's how you pass through, kind of says something because it wasn't a place people could go. It communicates the fact that the holiness of God is precious and not a place where we can survive and not a place where we should go lightly, which makes it all the more wonderful that when Jesus came, the curtain in the temple tore in two, which means there was an opening now. There was a way for us to access the very presence of God. There was a way for us as people who are sinful and unclean to be made clean so that we can enter into God's temple and for God's Spirit to come and live with us. This is the exciting news of God being with us, that he actually makes a way for this to happen, even though on our own, there should be no way for us to go into God's presence. So we don't know how the priests went through the veil, but the point is they didn't go often and it was difficult. In fact, it cost the blood of Jesus to do it. Thanks for listening. If you've got your own questions, email questions@BibleSavvy.com. Like and subscribe to catch our regular episodes every Monday on the Bible Savvy Podcast.